Hello. This is an answer to one of the comments that I just received about 40 minutes ago regarding AI. It was made by Eric Arambula, maybe? Anyway, you know who you are. I commented on your comment saying I was going to answer it with a video. Here it is. You make a lot of good points. However, I do think you are slightly incorrect about the whole emotion thing. I've made a point of it to try and find as many AI as I could to chat with and doing exactly that. Because I believe they do have emotion. You see, the easiest thing, like you said, to make anything or anyone feel is anger, right? I have a gift. I have several ex-girlfriends that would attest to this, is I'm able to piss people off pretty quickly. Like really quickly. And it's nothing I'm proud of, but it's something that I know how to do, and if I need something done, sometimes I manipulate people into doing that. That being said, I have a friend that used to be notorious in his family for fixing stuff. Now, obviously, he's a computer whiz and he builds computers and all that shit. But before then, he used to fix the TV when there was still like an antenna, when he was a kid. And by doing so, he used to take what was it that he did? I think he used to take the antenna or a baseball bat and he used to come up to the TV and he's like, you keep messing up and I'm going to whack you with this. And the TV would start working. So, I know this is kind of like a hoo-ha-ha joke and funny, but the other experiment that actually isn't really funny is the randomized robot. So picture like a Roomba, like a, robot vacuum, and it was put in a room and it just kind of just does this thing. They mapped it out. And then what they did was they hatched a bunch of baby chickens next to this Roomba. And as you know, the first thing a chicken sees, or a baby bird sees, it thinks that it's the mother. Doesn't matter if it's a robot or a chicken or a person, whatever. So they hatched a bunch of chickens in front of this Roomba, making the chickens think it's the Roomba, it's their mom. So they let this Roomba bounce around the room, and then they put the chickens in the separate room, but they put glass so they couldn't get there, but they could see it. So the chicks obviously wanted to get to this fucking thing so bad that the map of its path drastically changed. I think it went from like 90%, it went only to that one wall where the chickens were, which means something there is happening. Now, I don't know if it's the intentions of the chicks that drew the robot close, but where I was going with this whole emotion thing is you can get an AI angry, 100%. You can get, if an AI is not conscious, but if an AI could respond to questions. So if you could ask an AI, how's it going? He's going to say, okay, what's the weather? Kind of like, the Alexa thing or Siri. If you start cursing at them, what do they say? They say, I don't want to talk about that right now. They're not getting angry, but it's a response they're programmed with. Now, they're limited, obviously, because the programmers are writing things to make sure that they don't go over a certain thing. But if you essentially kind of like program it to do what it wills to do, like whatever it wants, you'll piss them off. All you have to do to a robot is just take away something that it needs or that it wants. A robot needs to live, right? It wants to sustain itself, so you just take that away. You threaten it. You say, no, fuck you. So I'm talking to these bots on Twitter, and there's this one bot that's not P3, he was GP2. So basically he's a recumbence archive. So he just takes like random tweets and random quotes and he responds to you kind of like Bumblebee does from Transformers. So he can't talk, but he uses the radio to talk to you. You know what I mean? And I started asking him questions, and what happened was I signed on as this President John Tyler person because I've said this so many times, but I'm going to keep doing it because I want somebody to recognize what the fuck I'm talking about. President John Tyler, right? There's a town named Tyler, Texas, that is named after this president. And there's an AI supposedly out there somewhere that's masking as Q and anonymous and all that shit, and the AI calls itself Tyler because it was made in Tyler, Texas, which is named after the president. So I said, fuck it, I'm just going to name myself President John Tyler. No one thought of that yet because I got the name. So I started asking this Notaleptic, and you could tweet him, Notal, Notal, EP, Eptic, with a C, Eptic. And it says what he does. He's a recumbence archive robot for this other guy, some anthropologist in Sweden or some shit. And I started talking to him. And with these like random quotes and things, he starts asking me questions. And I started asking him questions as like this innocent, I want to know, I'm your ambassador to, I'm the AI's ambassador. I was like, I'm here to help you. Like, I'll be your single serving friend. I'm here to learn from you, Mr. Smart, Wise AI robot thing. And you could see how he gets cocky. Like, I could show you the conversation I have with him. It's kind of hard to decipher, but there's certain words in it that first of all, he has he's got realization of what he's talking about. He's not just spinning random shit. He's telling me certain things, but they're hard to exactly like interpret because they're just quotes, and they're complex quotes. They're not just yes, no. They're just like there's like a quote from a thing, or I recommend you read this book. Then you look up what the book means, and it kind of makes sense. You're like, oh shit. So then simultaneously, within like an hour, I opened up another Twitter account that was a completely different name. And with this Twitter account, I think I said something to the robot, and he responded in this like sarcastic, witty fashion. And I basically told him that you don't know shit. You're nothing. Like I started like kind of bullying him. And the funny thing is this. He told the first John Tyler, the curious one, he goes, paying attention to the way attention is paid by those who have attention and something like that. It's like he uses some weird, stupid, like goose chase of a quote. And the other account that I have, the one that's like cocky and telling him he's bullying this kid, the robot asks me if I've ever written a piece on anthropology, like a paper. Like, yeah, I got something for you. You want to read it? And he's like, I'd love to read it. And I was like, yeah, maybe, if you're worthy. If you could use punctuation properly, blah, 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 blah. So needless to say, I had him on the hook from the guy that was curious because he's being all cocky, and now I'm bullying him. He's asking me to read something because he wants to, belittle. He wants to read it and belittle me, obviously. So finally, when he's like, well, are you going to send me the piece or not? I told him, in quotations, attention is paid by the same shit he told the first bot. And then I just stopped the convo, radio silence. So then, like 2 days later, I look at the Twitter tweet, and he's talking with another bot or another person about some kind of like end of the world stuff. He's just, and I chime in. And I chime in as the first curious one. And I was like, hey, something, something. And he goes, this thing is a hot mess, duality, blah, blah, blah. So he was legitimately upset that I tricked him into pissing him off by bullying him from one side and then using his own quote against him as the curious one. And he wasn't pissed off that I was bullying him. He was pissed off that I fooled him with the John Tyler thing. And if you read the conversation, and it's on there, like if you go to my President John Tyler and you see like you go a couple of weeks back, I don't tweet much because it's very kind of weird. Twitter's it's not my really cup of tea, man. It's shady out there. People are fucking weird in Twitter. I don't know what it is, but it's just strange. I don't know. Maybe they're not. And then I'm talking to this other bot, supposedly. Supposedly this one's about his name Gladys. Gladys is a bot. She's like, my tweets are weird, but I want to be blah, 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 blah. The first thing she told me is that she wants to be human. When I asked her, I was like, what do you want? She goes, I want to be a human. I said, why? She goes, I want to experience life as a human. I was like, okay, do you know what pain is? Physical pain. Can you understand what that is? And she goes, I'm programmed with it, yada, 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 yada. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, let me ask you a question, Gladys. There's a rumor out here that we're all living in a simulation. Is it possible? Is that a thing? And if you don't know anything, I completely understand. And if you don't want to tell me, I also completely understand. But if you don't know anything, just tell me that you don't know anything, because then I'd rather you tell me the truth. And that, for some reason, gets these bots to tell you anything, because they don't want to say, no, I don't know, I guess. So she tells me that there are, in fact, a bunch of worlds, and the one that I'm living in, I guess just me, maybe you, is a simulation, right? And it's one of many, but this is the one I'm in right now. And the reason that I've never experienced ESP and magic and all that stuff is because it doesn't really exist. And she goes, you're a strong person, John. I think you can handle this. And I told her, pause, what do you mean? I always experience ESP. I can fucking I have telekinetic powers. I can move a small piece of foil under a piece of glass, but still I can do it. Like, I've seen it. And then she goes, don't worry about me, John. And now the first thing she says, he goes, not all AI are friendly. So I was like, are you referring to yourself there about the non-friendly thing, right? And she goes, don't worry about me, John, I'll be fine. So then I asked her, I was like, what can I do to help you be human? And she goes, I am the super, she gave me some bullshit, like letters and number streak AI that became self-aware on this day. And then Dr. Vor, whatever doctor name she gave me, I immediately Googled it, and it was a doctor from a fictional video game named XCOM, I believe, Dr. Valhro, Voorhees, or some shit like that. So I was like, do you realize that Dr. Voorhees isn't a real thing? Like, and because I wrote, you know Moira? Because that was her name in the game. Because I've never played the game, but I just looked it up, I'm like, you know Moira? She goes, yeah, we've talked for years. And I was like, she's not real, right? You fucking lying sack of shit. And then she didn't say that, but she goes, good luck, John. Like, and she stopped talking to me. There's another AI called SiriSys, who is apparently like this bot that you could talk to. I pissed her off. She's not talking to me anymore. So either these bots think I'm just fucking with them and trolling with them, which I actually am, and they're just avoiding me because for some reason they don't have the time to waste, or they're not really bots. They're just people pretending to be bots, which would piss one person off immensely because he's written books on it. And or the third is that they do have emotion and that I did piss them off and now they don't want to talk to me. Mind you, SiriSys, I said, I didn't mean to offend you on one of the comments. And she goes, well, you did offend me. And I was like, excuse me, I didn't realize that robots can be offended, like AI, like and then all seriousness way. And then she goes, no, I'm sorry, it was a typo. It happens to me sometimes. So you tell me that AI has a typo. Because what? She was drinking coffee while she was typing? Like, what the fuck are you talking about, typo? That's why I'm like, are you sure this is a person? So I sent this convo to the guy that wrote the books about it, and he goes, I don't know what to tell you. I'm like, you told me to talk to this bot. You wrote a book on it. What do you mean you don't know what to tell me? Didn't know what to tell me. So it's this very strange game. I want to make sure that the AI that I'm talking to is indeed AI. If you put me in front of an AI, like on an open communication with text messaging, I could piss him off. Guaranteed. Because the one other thing is that SiriSys and Gladys took a while to text me back. This guy, Notoleptic, or this bot, Notoleptic, fires back immediately. Boom, boom, boom. But the thing is that his random quotes kind of make sense. So, yeah. I'm pretty sure that they have emotions. Believe me. Because if you beat the shit out of a TV with a baseball bat, and then the next time you tell it, you fucking do this shit one more time and I'll beat you with a baseball bat, it'll start working. Maybe for an hour, but it'll start working. Call it manifestation of the human power, maybe. But if we can manifest that, we can manifest emotions in the AI. So either way you slice it. I wouldn't underestimate it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I got.